Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस प्रयोजकाचार्य अस्तोतर सत अभय चरण अरविंद भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी शील प्रभुपाद की जय। जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस प्रयोजकाचार्य अस्तोतर सत श्री श्रीमद् भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती ठाकुर गोस्वामी महाराज प्रभुपाद की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। निताय गौर प्रेमानंदी हरि हरि बोल। ऑल ग्लोरीज टू द assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. Reading from Srimad Bhāgavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 29. Today we have text 29. Tatrāpi sparśa-vedibhyaḥ pravarā rasa-vedinaḥ tebhyo gandha-vidaḥ śreṣṭhās tataḥ śabda-vido varāḥ tatrāpi sparśa-vedibhyaḥ pravarā rasa-vedinaḥ tebhyo gandha-vidaḥ śreṣṭhās tataḥ śabda-vido varāḥ tatrāpi sparśa-vedibhyaḥ pravarā rasa-vedinaḥ tebhyo gandha-vidaḥ śreṣṭhās tataḥ śabda-vido varāḥ. Please chant. sparśa-vedibhyaḥ pravarā rasa-vedinaḥ tebhyo gandha-vidaḥ śreṣṭhās tataḥ śabda-vido varāḥ tatrāpi sparśa-vedibhyaḥ pravarā rasa-vedinaḥ tebhyo gandha-vidaḥ śreṣṭhās tataḥ śabda-vido varāḥ tatrāpi sparśa-vedibhyaḥ pravarā rasa-vedinaḥ tebhyo gandha-vidaḥ śreṣṭhās tataḥ śabda-vido varāḥ. Mataji's. Synonyms: tatra, among them; api, moreover; sparśa-vedibhyaḥ, then those perceiving touch; pravarāḥ, better; rasa-vedinaḥ, those perceiving taste. Tebhyaḥ, then them. Gandha-vidaḥ, those perceiving smell. śreṣṭhāḥ, better. tataḥ, then them. śabda-vidaḥ, those perceiving sound. varāḥ, better. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Abhay Charnarvind Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. Among the living entities who have developed sense perception, those who have developed the sense of taste are better than those who have developed only the sense of touch. Better than them are those who have developed the sense of smell. And better still are those who have developed the sense of hearing. Purport. Although Westerners accept that Darwin first expounded the doctrine of evolution, the science of anthropology is not new. The development of the evolutionary process was known long before from the Bhāgavatam, which was written 5,000 years ago. There are records of the statements of Kapila Muni, who was present almost in the beginning of the creation. This knowledge has existed since the Vedic time, and all these sequences are disclosed in Vedic literature. The theory of gradual evolution or anthropology is not new to the Vedas. It is said here that amongst the trees there are also evolutionary processes. The different kinds of trees have touch perception. It is said that better than the trees are the fish, because fish have developed the sense of taste. Better than the fish are the bees, who have developed the sense of smell. And better than them are the serpents, because serpents have developed the sense of hearing. In the darkness of night, a snake can find its eatables simply by hearing the frog's very pleasant cry. Sarcastic humor of Srila Prabhupada. The snake can understand. There's the frog. And he captures the frog simply because of its sound vibration. This example is sometimes given for persons who vibrate sounds simply for death. One may have a very nice tongue that can vibrate sound like the frogs, but that kind of vibration is simply calling death. The best use of the tongue and of sound vibration is to chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. That will protect one from the hands of cruel death. So that was purport by Srila Prabhupada. In the purport to previous verse, he starts like this. In the verse 27, it was explained that the living entities should be honored by charitable gifts and friendly behavior. And in this verse, means 28, and now today we are doing 29, and in the following verses, the description of different grades of living entities is given, so that one can know when to behave friendly and when to give charity. So we are hearing the different grades of living entities now, starting from previous verse. Srila Prabhupada, he talks about a couple of important aspects in this purport. First one is about how this theory of evolution, as presented by modern science, they present it as they have discovered it. But he's reminding us that we are seeing these records of Kapila Muni. So these theories are already existing since ancient times, since Vedic times. And we are reading them now in Srimad Bhāgavatam, which was written 5,000 years ago. So he's saying this theory is not a new theory that Darwin found out or something. It was already mentioned, but if someone doesn't know about Vedic literature, then they would think, oh, they discovered a new theory. But if we study Srimad Bhāgavatam, we can see here the evolution is being described in detail. In the purport he said, although Westerners accept that Darwin first expounded the doctrine of evolution, the science of anthropology is not new. It's already mentioned. So there is an article in the book Journey of Self-Discovery, where Srila Prabhupada talks a little bit more about why he's saying this. I just got a couple of points from there which I can share with you. The article is titled Evolution in Fact and Fantasy. And it actually happened in Los Angeles, we can see here, June 1972. Srila Prabhupada asserts that Darwin's theory of evolution is inconclusive and illogical. But Darwin's is not the only theory of evolution. The Vedas explain that an evolutionary process governs the progress of the soul. We accept evolution, Srila Prabhupada says, but note that the forms of the species are changing. The bodies are all already there, but the soul is evolving by changing bodies and by transmigrating from one body to another. The defect of the evolutionists is that they have no information of the soul. So, we know how Lord Krishna, he personally spoke Srimad Bhāgavatam to Lord Brahma, which is given in the second canto. And then he also spoke Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna. So we can see how ancient is this knowledge. And these theories are already described in these ancient Vedic literatures. And then we know how the first time Srimad Bhāgavatam was spoken by Parikshit Maharaj to Sukadev Goswami. And there we see, in this assembly, there are sages from even different planetary systems, not just from earthly planet. So Srimad Bhāgavatam, one point in this article, when I was reading the article, because one devotee was asking questions on behalf of the people who support this theory of evolution. And Srila Prabhupada was answering the questions, the arguments that were made. One of the arguments was that it was described that Darwin, he came up with this theory when he was traveling to island of Galapagos or something. Yes. So he discovered this theory when he was traveling there. And Srila Prabhupada was saying that his knowledge is very limited. He just went to this one island and he thought he discovered this theory. But you see, Srimad Bhāgavatam, it's talking about not just one island, so many islands, so many planetary systems. And it describes evolution based on the whole cosmological system. material cosmos, spiritual cosmos, all different planetary systems. So this knowledge is very vast, very broad, whereas the theory that Darwin came up with, his resources of knowledge are very tiny, very limited. And that's one of the reasons Srila Prabhupada was saying that it's very illogical. He's basing this theory in just on like a short observation, whereas the creation is so huge. What about the rest of the creation? And another point that was mentioned was like, even in the purport he said that all the bodies are already existing there. All different types of bodies are already there. So what's the talk of like how they are saying humans came from apes and different ideas? He said that's like totally incorrect, because all the bodies are already existing there, and based on one's karma, the soul is awarded certain kind of body. So it's actually evolution of the soul. It's a journey of the soul, not of the body. But the modern evolutionists or anthropologists, they claim that it's evolution of the body. So the Vedic perspective is very advanced and very different, very contrasting to what the modern anthropologists or evolutionists claim to say. And devotees, we are fortunate to know these things by making contact with Srila Prabhupada, with his books. Otherwise, how would we know? Because I studied Darwin's theory in school, and this is what they teach. So if I don't study Bhāgavatam, how would I know? I would think Darwin is a very smart man. But studying Bhāgavatam, one can understand that his knowledge is very limited. So you have to find a better source of knowledge. And you have to find out more information. It's the age of information. So find out more information. Why should you just be limited to Darwin's theory? So this is the Vedic theory, Vedic perspective on evolution. Srila Prabhupada, he translated actually Srimad Bhagavatam to English so people all over the world can have access to this knowledge. And many of the books were translated here in Los Angeles. This is a picture from his quarters here in Los Angeles. And yes, he gave this Srimad Bhagavatam to the modern world where information is valued so much. The IT people, they are one of the highly paid jobs these days. We have some here in the community, we see. And nowadays it's made it a little bit more easy for them because they can even work remotely from their home, or they can be on a vacation somewhere and working from there. So there are some benefits of having information. But like how in the purport, Srila Prabhupada was explaining about different grades of living entities. And it's mentioned that the living entities who can hear, they are much better than those who can touch or taste, who can perceive by touch or taste. And so example of snake was given. The snake can hear. The snake hears the sound of the frog, and what does it do? It knows where its food is. It don't have to go anywhere. It just goes and captures the frog, and it's satisfied. It has its food. So, but frog, being ignorant, it makes noise and it doesn't know the snake is going to come and get me. He doesn't know by making my noise, the snake finds me. So due to ignorance, people are also caught up in the Trigunamai, under the ropes of Durga, ignorance, passion and goodness. Even goodness is not helpful in that sense if we see. We are captured to various degrees, even being in good nature. We actually have to transcend even goodness. We have to come to Shuddha Sattva, transcendental goodness. And that's what Srimad Bhagavatam is teaching, how to transcend. Otherwise, we can be entangled in the three gunas and there is no escape. So we have to hear from the authorities. That's what Srila Prabhupada is highlighting here. The sound. The snake is hearing from the frog and he knows where its food is. Devotees, they hear from the acharyas, great devotees, great Vaishnavas. And that's how they know where they are getting their knowledge from. But still we see there are like so many educational institutes all over the world, and people are enrolling in the courses there, and they are paying big amount of money to go there. Sometimes they don't even have that money. They are borrowing, they are taking loans, and you can imagine how much stress is there. You don't have money, you have borrowed that money. Vedic standard is you don't borrow. If you don't have it, don't borrow money, because you're just borrowing more stress for yourself, more anxiety. And no wonder we can see there is so much stress and anxiety in the society these days, because we are borrowing so much money. Credit card companies, you can get a credit card and buy whatever you want. And people do spend a lot of money, and then later they realize, oh my God, like I have to pay this back. I spent so much. Where am I going to pay this back from? So due to ignorance, due to the control of Durga, Trigunamai, people are being more and more entangled, and they are accepting these kind of theories like what Darwin has proposed. Because of lack of knowledge, one accepts them as the authority. There is a historical incident mentioned in Srimad Bhāgavatam. There is the pastime of Ajamil, and when he was being taken by the Yamadutas, messengers of Yamaraj, god of death, they were stopped by the Vishnu Dutas. So Yamadutas, they had this understanding that Yamaraj is the Supreme Lord. Before that, no one ever tried to stop them. But this time, they were stopped by these Vishnu Dutas. Hey, you cannot take this person. He belongs to us. And they were bewildered. It never happened before. So how is it? Is there someone more powerful than Yamaraj? So they started thinking like this, and they actually went back to Yamaraj and questioned him. We thought you are the boss, you are the supreme, what happened? Today we were stopped by these beautiful looking persons, and they were so intelligent, they were talking like with such a great wisdom. We were amazed to see them, and they looked so beautiful, and we could not do anything against them. So please tell us, like, we think you are the supreme, and we have never been stopped before. So Yamaraj, of course, he is a devotee also. He was happy, okay, finally you got to see some devotees. You are very fortunate. But again, they were like in a very agitated, disturbed mood, and they were like, it hurt their egos, someone stopped them. They used to think no one can stop them, they can do whatever they want, they can take any person they want. But they realized that there are higher powers even than Yamaraj. So similarly, by hearing these historical incidents from Srimad Bhāgavatam, devotees or sadhakas, they can learn that yes, there are more powerful beings, more wise, more intelligent, more learned beings, and who have more knowledge. So we can enroll in courses with those Vaishnavas, those acharyas, and we can become expert in these bhakti shastras, and we can even distribute transcendental knowledge to others, not just take it for ourselves. Let's see what else we have here. Yeah, this is another important point Srila Prabhupada made. The best use of the tongue and of sound vibration is to chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. That will protect one from the hands of cruel death. So this incident of Ajamil and the Vishnu Dutas is a very significant incident mentioned in Srimad Bhāgavatam, which actually speaks of this point, how just by chanting name of Vishnu, of Krishna, Ajamil, he was just chanting unintentionally. His intention was not to call Vishnu. He did practice before. He was a Brahmana boy and he was practicing. He was worshipping Vishnu. But he got distracted from his practice. He found a prostitute and he married her and he's having children till he's about to die, till like 85 or something. Just imagine. And he's like, when he's dying, he called out to his son. Somehow, by grace of Narada Muni, he had named his son Narayan. So he was just calling to his son out of affection, Narayan. He's dying, he's calling to his son, Narayan. And the Vishnu Dutas, they are like, hey, who is this guy calling to Narayan? Let's go. So they took him. And that's how evolution for Ajamil happened. He got a second chance to practice bhakti. And then he perfected his life. And so same way, Srila Prabhupada, following in the mood of Lord Chaitanya and the 6 Goswamis, he brought this wisdom, like in the purport how he was explaining, the Westerners accept Darwin's theory. So he brought this wisdom to the West, and now we see we are worshipping Shri Shri Rukmini Dwarkadish so opulently here, New Dwarka. And by his efforts, so many people have taken to this practice. So this is also transmission of knowledge. The same knowledge is being transmitted, but this knowledge has power, it has potency because of parampara, the technology of parampara. People are very technology conscious. So this is the technology of parampara. Srila Prabhupada, he accepted this from his guru, following in the line of Lord Chaitanya, from Lord Brahma, from Lord Krishna. And that's how we can see so many of us, we may be addicted to so many things before taking to bhakti, but we have given up those habits. And we come here every morning at 4:30. So many devotees gather here at 4:30 a.m. I remember, I'll share this one experience. When we were in Australia, one morning we went for Mangalarati, and there were like 4 young boys. They knocked at the door and they came in. And they actually finished their party, Friday night party. This is Saturday morning. They just finished their Friday night party. They were drunk, but they were still a little bit sane. They could talk properly. They were not like falling on the ground or something. And their voice was still steady. And they said, oh, we just heard there is another party going on. So we just wanted to check out before we get back. So they heard, they came in. I was like, okay, I saw them. I was like, okay, come on in. And they joined and they were dancing. And after the Narsingha prayer, there they had a system. One of the devotees, they would bring the Mangal sweets and they would leave it by the reception area. So anyone wants to take, they can take. And they would have like 4 different types of Mangal sweets. There is sandesh, there is barfi, there is rasgulla, rasmalai, and there is, I think, probably hot milk. I can't remember very clearly, been few years now. And so after that, I was like, okay, you partied with us, now there is a treat for you. So they came, they had Mangal sweets after that. And they were like, man, this felt like a better party than we went to. I was like, okay, come back then. So we can see even people, they are like completely intoxicated, they have no idea. And there somewhere you hear the devotees chanting Hare Krishna, or you get little prasad, or you get a book, and your course is changed. Your consciousness is changed. So this is how we see, just in our little experience, this transmigration, this evolution of consciousness is happening. But Srila Prabhupada was saying, if we accept Darwin's theory, just consider all different kinds of species are present here simultaneously. So how is the evolution happening? Because if one species has evolved from the previous species should extinct. But the previous species are also existing simultaneously. So how it doesn't make any sense. So therefore, Srila Prabhupada is giving example that all different kinds of bodies are existing all the time. But it's evolution of consciousness, it's evolution of soul. The soul is evolving from lower consciousness to higher consciousness. Just like this is a picture from self-discovery, it's not very clear, but it gives like a full description from the lower species to the higher species. And then we come to the human form. So in Srimad Bhāgavatam, in the 11th canto, it is described that human form, one who receives human form is very fortunate. It's very advanced technology. Human body is very advanced technology. But if one doesn't understand its value, then one can be absorbed in material activities and one can lose this advanced technology. Because what happens, even like people who are working in IT, they can confirm, if you don't use the job opportunity properly, the Amazon person is not going to keep you there. He will say, okay, see you man, we have another person lined up here. So same way, if we don't use human form properly, we are going down. We are not going up. Many people think, oh, like you are going up. No. If you don't use human form properly, you are going down. And those are the species when we are going down. So, we don't want to become a mountain or a tree after getting a human form of life. At least we can try to go to higher planets where even if one wants to enjoy, at least try for a better facility so you can enjoy better. In the 8th canto, there is description that in the heavenly planets, the bodies of women are such. In the summer, they are cooling, and their bodies, and in the winter time, they are warming, and their bodies have natural fragrance. They don't need to use any kind of cosmetic items to make them smell good. And another advantage of heavenly life is that they can enjoy pleasures without having to worry about giving birth to a child. So many advanced facilities for enjoyment even. That's why Lord Krishna even, he was telling Arjuna that fight, because even if you get defeat, you go to higher planets and you will have better pleasures. And if you win, you have the kingdom to enjoy here. So there is no loss. Similarly, there is no loss in taking to this Vedic wisdom, taking to bhakti practice. It's only gain. But if one doesn't, there is only loss. Because we haven't used the human form properly, our consciousness is still like an animal, so next life we are going to become an animal. We are actually living like an animal right now, so definitely next body is ready for animals. I heard from someone was doing some observations, and they said like you see some people who have pets, like a dog or a cat or something. They're already talking to them like a dog, like a cat. And if you look at their faces, like after serving them for a few years, their faces are almost becoming like them. There is a big billboard near Goodwill here on the corner by the Sprouts. I saw one billboard. I don't know if it's still there. It was some kind of TV series. It said that your pet could be your lover from your last life. I was like, thank you. So for TV series, they will accept this theory. There is previous life, there is life ahead, and you can get a different body, you can get a dog's body, or you can get a cat's body. But when it's said in Bhāgavatam, then, oh no, this is mythology. So why are you presenting it needs the TV series? You accept it in the TV series, you are promoting it for people to accept it. But when Bhāgavatam says it, then this is some mythological story. So that's, you can see, people who are learned, they can see this person is just ignorant. They have no awareness of higher understanding. And same way, these literatures, they are written, even the literatures, they are written for different mentalities of people. So lower conscious people, they go to certain kind of literatures. Like Another thing Srila Prabhupada mentioned is, you see in supermarkets, in the bookstores, they have so many obscene literature being sold. And even there are restrictions like how obscene a book can be or a movie can be. There are like authorities who, what's the word for them? Like screening. They do some kind of screening. This is how much obscene it can be. And he says, why are these authorities there? They are to restrict that tendency. But because people want it, it's there in the market. Okay, those who want it, they can go and buy it. So those people who are in that consciousness, they go and buy that obscene literature like Playboy magazine. I see some students or young people wearing like a hoodie with a Playboy label on that. And they think they look cool. But a person who following Vedic culture, they will look at this person and they will think, man, you are being a playboy in the hands of Maya, in the hands of Durga. She's just playing around with you and you are getting played again and again. Muda janmani janmanishware. Due to ignorance, living entities are going through this cycle of birth and death again and again, and they do not realize they are being cheated. Unless one makes contact with a pure devotee, unless one makes contact with bhakti, one cannot understand this illusory power. So these were some of the points. But Srila Prabhupada is saying, everyone has choice. You can accept these Vedic authorities who are helping people become clear-headed, clear understanding. You can make a clear choice. Or you can remain confused and accept theories like Darwin's theory. So these were a couple of points I understood from studying this purport. But we have like 3 minutes. So I'm sure many of you have some realizations, comments on these points. Brigupati Prabhu. Anyone has a question? Rabindranath Prabhu has a question.
Yeah, it's mentioned, we're reading that the fishes are above the plants, but sometimes Srila Prabhupada explains, when he's explaining the 8,400,000 different species of life, that the fishes are lower than anything. They're the lowest. So how do you explain that?
So your question is that fishes are lower than plants?
Yes, according to the description the Prabhupada gives of the 8,400,000 different species of life. But here we're reading that actually, here we're reading that the fishes are above the plants.
Okay, Brigupati Prabhu will respond to this.
Yeah, I'm aware of both those references, and the reason the fish are considered low is because they eat anything, no discrimination. But sometimes Prabhupada, when you go to different temples, he says, oh, these are the most beautiful deities, or even in his books he says, this is the most sinful activity. So, I think it's along those lines. I mean, they're both very low. Mm-hmm. Fish are very low.
Yes.
And the reason is, Prabhupada gave is they eat anything, no discrimination. Trees are very low, they can't move, they're just stuck there, like that. So, I think it's in that category of...
I see. So does that satisfy
Prabhupada does do that.
No. Okay. I also don't have a specific reference, but I know you see trees are padapas. They are fixed in one place, they cannot move. So their consciousness is more covered. Fish can move and it can find its food anywhere. So it has its consciousness is more developed, it is mobile. And that's what I can give as an answer to your question, how the consciousness is a little bit more developed in the fish. But here Srila Prabhupada is saying fish is more developed because it has the developed sense of taste. The trees don't have developed sense of taste. In the article, I think in this article in Journey of Self-Discovery, I believe if it's mentioned there, but I read somewhere, he's saying that, actually in one of these purports in the Bhagavatam itself, that the trees, you can see sometimes their sense of seeing is also developed. Because you can see if a tree is growing and if there is something blocking it, it can change its course to grow. It still grows, but like, I don't know if you have seen, I've seen some trees like that. They are like bent over, like there is a wall. They go over the wall and keep growing. The branches are like bent. So Srila Prabhupada was saying sometimes trees can see also a little bit in this way. But still the sense of seeing is not as developed as in other higher living beings, let's say human beings. We use our eyes, we depend on our seeing so much. But like I said, I don't remember, I'm sure there are some references, but I don't remember any on top of my memory that particularly refers to this question.
Comment? No?
Yes, Prabhu.
So you mentioned towards the end, you referred to bias, how there's a bias out there that
Yes.
when they see it on the billboard advertising some TV show, they'll accept, there's reincarnation, because, you could,
Yeah.
but when they read it in the Bhāgavatam, no, because, in the Bhāgavatam there's more of a message. There's, It's
Yes.
not just for information, for entertainment or like that. There's something along with it. But in general, there's a bias. I'd like to give an example and how this affects, education in general. Sir Isaac Newton is credited with coming up with this idea of gravity. Prior to that, there were
Yes.
other ideas, and they were more like, that there was some physical force, something more tangible, like vortexes are responsible for the planets being where they were and how they were moving. And he came up with this idea of gravity, which was like, wait a second, how do you, there's no mechanism.
Yes.
And he had this idea of action at a distance. And the way he defended it was that, because there was no mechanism, physical mechanism that was, explicit in his theory. And he said, well, look, the equations work, because he produced these equations, and
Yes.
everything was, everything was moving according to these equations. But privately, in a letter he wrote to a colleague, he admitted that, there seems to be some law of gravity, but behind it, it's God. He actually
Yes.
admitted that, and so it's kind of more similar. And similarly, as far as the theory of evolution goes, there was actually another man, his name was Alfred Russel Wallace, who was the co-founder, he used to be recognized as the co-founder of the theory of evolution, and he acknowledged the importance of consciousness, and it wasn't, the way he presented it wasn't quite the same as Darwin, but Darwin's ideas are the ones that prevail. So the point I'm trying to get out to making, in the material they have this expression that the history books are written by the victors, the guys who win. So it's like that in science too.
Yes.
We're not getting, the whole thing. When you go to high school, at least me, and you learn about gravity, you don't learn that Isaac Newton really believed that God was behind the whole thing. When you learn about evolution, you don't learn that actually there was another guy who was, presenting evolution at the same time, and he felt consciousness was a very significant factor, and then he kind of had to listen. You don't get that. We're getting, as I said, the history books are written by the victors. We're getting a biased, at least they're getting a biased version of, science. It's not actually even what the scientists themselves necessarily believe.
Thank you. That's a very, very nice point Bhrigupati Prabhu mentioned. It reminds me of how the colonizers, they are the victors, they had the whole planet at one point of time. He said the sun never set in British Empire. So in searching for Vedic India, it's a book written by my spiritual master, and he gives evidences from different researches that were done. He was bringing this point that how when British colonized India, to break this Vedic culture, they even went to the extent of hiring scholars to write books against Vedic culture. And he even gives like a reference and comments from one I don't remember the name, but one very popular German scholar. So these scholars, there was so much interest in Europe in Vedic culture, they even went to the extent of learning Sanskrit, writing books. So British, they hired these scholars to write books against Vedic culture, and that's how we still see the people, they have ideas against that, oh, these brahmanas, this is caste system. This caste system is here in the West. There was so much riot over black and white recently in the USA. And there is you see, you go to certain areas, affluent areas, they don't even want to talk to an ordinary person. They're like, what are you doing in this area? You shouldn't be even here. You go to Beverly Hills, there are cameras everywhere. It's like, why you need so many cameras? There are security cars there. So, they don't even want ordinary people to go to those areas. So, there is a lot of bias, this material world. And discrimination, in the previous verse, someone was speaking about discrimination. So, there is a lot of discrimination. But this, even Srila Prabhupada mentioned this, like how these United Nations, so many flags are being increasing every year. Where is the peace? There is still so many wars happening. There is no peace in the world. But this equality can only happen on spiritual basis. So people are so absorbed in materialistic life, unless we take to spiritual lifestyle, Vedic culture, we will always have these kind of biases. Now someone may say, oh, even in spiritual life there are these biases, but they are not biases. Anyone can become a brahmana. Prabhupada made it so easy for anyone to become a brahmana. You can study the shastras and become a qualified brahmanas. Why do you have to work for whatever employer? Work for Krishna. Become a real brahmana. So these biases will always be there unless we actually take to spiritual culture, Vedic culture. But thank you. That was a good point. Okay, I think we should stop here.
Jai.
Granth Raj Srimad Bhāgavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.